nuanced skill of writing on a blackboard.
Yeah.
It might seem really basic, but we are going to really dive deep into why this classic educational tool still matters in today's world.
Right. When you think about teaching today, your mind probably jumps to interactive whiteboards, tablets, all of that digital stuff.
Yeah, all the fancy new things.
All that stuff. But believe it or not, the humble Blackboard has been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Has a long history. Goes all the way back to 1801 in Scotland.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, and it continues to be a really effective way, I think, to connect with students.
Yeah.
Particularly in, many parts of the world, like India, for example, where they still use blackboards a lot.
That's a great point, yeah. And so for this deep dive, our mission is to really uncover the most effective techniques for using this seemingly simple aid. We've got some fascinating material here that shows that even something as fundamental as putting chalk to slate, there's real skill involved.
Yeah.
We're going to explore why the blackboard endures, the key components of using it well, and provide, hopefully, actionable techniques that you as a teacher listening to this can really benefit from. Think of this as a concentrated exploration into maximizing the impact of the blackboard.
And for you, the listener, going on this deep dive with us into this foundational practice will illuminate, I think, not just effective classroom techniques, but also maybe offer some broader insights into the principles of impactful visual communication. You can apply this to lots of different areas.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will be an interesting byproduct for you, our listener.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. In the age of interactive screens and digital learning and all of that, why is the blackboard still such a relevant tool?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of really compelling reasons why the Blackboard, I think, continues to be indispensable. First off, it's incredibly cost-effective. Our sources actually emphasize that it's the cheapest and most economical teaching aid available.
Makes sense.
And that's a big deal, I think, especially in certain parts of the world where resources are limited. Plus, the reusability is a huge advantage. You can just erase and start fresh. And let's not overlook the convenience. A portable blackboard means you can teach effectively in pretty much any setting.
It's like the resilient, no-frills champion of the classroom.
It really is.
But it's not just about being budget-friendly, right? What other unique value does it offer?
Absolutely. It's an incredibly versatile tool. Think about how you can use it. You can use it for listing key lesson points. You can use it to construct charts and illustrations in real time.
Right in front of the students.
Yeah. You can sketch out graphs, maps, all sorts of diagrams, and it's particularly valuable in subjects like math and accountancy. Oh, yeah, where you really need to show your work.
Exactly. Where you can work through problems step by step, encourage participation. There's this real-time construction of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's pretty unique to a blackboard.
I can see how that would solidify understanding, seeing it step by step like that.
Definitely. And our notes also highlight that it's crucial for ensuring accuracy. When you write things down, technical terms, important addresses, or a sequence of key points, students can copy it directly, minimizes errors.
Right. So it really is about precision.
Yeah.
What about keeping students engaged? How does that play into using the Blackboard?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Because I think there is something about using a blackboard, the act of writing and drawing, that can be more dynamic and engaging than just projecting something static on a screen.
It's more active, almost like a performance in a way. Yeah, and it allows for this carefully paced instruction where you can really build ideas sequentially. And really importantly, I think, it facilitates lesson phasing and summarization.
Right, so you're providing this visual anchor for students to review and recall.
Exactly.
Our sources also give a really extensive list of specific ways that it can be applied. What are some of those?
Yeah, the range of uses is pretty remarkable. From creating drawings, sketches, to defining technical vocabulary, outlining the structure of your lesson, reviews, daily problems, announcements.
Wow, you can use it for everything.
I mean, even tests and examinations, class records.
Really, the whole gamut of teaching.
It really is, and it underscores how I think the Blackboard can be integrated into pretty much your entire teaching workflow.
But it's clear that to get the most out of it, it's not just about casually, scribbling on the board.
Right.
Right, there's real skill involved.
Exactly. Effective Blackboard technique, I think, requires learning and consistently practicing specific methods. And meaningless scribbles, random doodles, that can actually be counterproductive.
Yeah, it can distract students, make things more confusing.
Exactly. It can.
Okay, so we've got a good understanding now of why the Blackboard is still so valuable.
Mhm.
Let's get into some of the, practical aspects. What are some of the key principles, the golden rules of using a Blackboard effectively?
Well, our sources provide a really useful, set of guidelines for maximizing impact. I think first off, being prepared is key. Before you even start, you should gather all the necessary materials.
Right, the chalk, the erasers, all that.
Exactly. Chalk, ruler, eraser, compass. If you're going to be doing any kind of geometric diagrams, no one wants to be searching for chalk in the middle of an important explanation.
Yeah, you don't want to disrupt the flow.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
So the second thing I would say is considering the learning environment. Check the lighting in your classroom, minimize glare on the board, and very importantly, keep the Blackboard clean, erase any unrelated material.
A clean slate, literally.
Literally. And then planning your layout in advance can be really helpful, especially for more complex illustrations or diagrams. For those, it can even be beneficial to prepare a light outline beforehand, just to keep you on track.
Right. So you're not just winging it up there.
Right. And, the overarching principle here is avoid overcrowding the board.
Quality over quantity.
Yes, exactly. A few key points, clearly presented, much better than a dense wall of text.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about when it comes to the actual, writing, the drawing that you're doing on the board?
Yeah, so I think keeping your phrasing simple, brief, concise, that's really helpful.
So students can understand it.
Exactly. Print your writing, draw your diagrams large enough. Everything needs to be visible from the back of the classroom. And here's a tip. Use colored chalk. Chrome yellow, pale green to emphasize key terms or elements.
Oh, that's a good idea. So using color strategically.
Exactly. A little visual variety.
Breaks things pop.
It does. And then, think about your position as the teacher.
Right, because you're physically in front of this board.
Yeah. Always stand to one side as you're writing so you're not blocking anyone's view. Use a pointer when you need to direct attention.
All very practical tips.
And here's a small but important one. Try to avoid making those high-pitched squeaking noises with the chalk.
Oh, yeah, that can be really annoying.
It can be, yeah. And finally, avoid spelling mistakes and errors. It sounds obvious, but
Yeah, but sometimes in the heat of the moment,
Exactly.
you make mistakes.
Okay.
Okay, so our sources break down the actual skill into some key components. And the first one they mention is legible writing, which seems pretty fundamental, right?
It is. It's really the foundation. Legibility is paramount. Every letter distinct, adequate spacing, the size of your letters, uniform, large enough. Remember, capital letters should be bigger than lowercase letters.
So no tiny, cramped handwriting.
No, absolutely not. And aim for writing that's as nearly vertical as possible.
And a good tip is to use heavy and light strokes.
Oh, to create contrast.
Exactly. It makes things pop visually.
Improves clarity. Okay, the next component is neatness. What does neatness in Blackboard work even mean?
So neatness is really about the overall presentation. Words, sentences, written along horizontal lines parallel to the edges of the blackboard. If you're starting out, using a board ruler to draw guidelines can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And avoid writing at the very bottom of the board.
Where people can't see it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And spacing between the lines of text is key. Not too close, not too far apart. Don't overwrite, erase unnecessary stuff.
Just keep it clean and organized.
Exactly.
Okay, the next one is appropriateness.
Yes.
So, what kind of stuff should be going up on the blackboard? Well, appropriateness means being selective. You don't need to write down everything. Focus on salient points, introduce them sequentially. You can use arrows, symbols.
To make connections between ideas.
Exactly. And remember, the Blackboard summary at the end should be brief and concise, allowing students to recall the main points quickly.
A visual anchor for the key takeaways.
Yes, precisely.
Okay, the next component is drawing attention and maintaining focus.
Right.
So how can we use the Blackboard to do that?
So strategic underlining is key, to highlight important words or terms. And again, colored chalk sparingly.
To really make things stand out.
Exactly. And when you're creating illustrations and diagrams, keep them simple, large, clear. Label important parts with large, dark letters. And actually, a practical tip is to move to the back of the classroom.
To check visibility.
Yes,
Yeah.
make sure everything is legible from every seat in the room.
That's a great self-assessment tip. And finally, adequate use. What does that mean?
Adequate use means using the Blackboard consistently throughout your lesson, not just as an afterthought.
Right, it should be integrated.
Seamlessly woven into your teaching, not sporadically. It's a dynamic element that evolves with your lesson.
So our sources actually have a check your progress section, almost like a little quiz.
Right.
Let's go through some of the questions. First one, is all Blackboard writing meaningless?
Absolutely not. Everything should have a purpose, contribute to learning objectives.
Should teachers use simple phrasing when writing?
Yes, simple, brief, concise statements. That's the most effective way to help with comprehension and retention.
Okay. Is it okay to have spelling errors?
Absolutely not. Accuracy is fundamental.
It undermines your credibility.
It does.
Should colored chalk never be used for emphasis?
No, that's incorrect. Colored chalk, when used thoughtfully, is a valuable tool for emphasizing key points.
And should you stand to one side while using the Blackboard?
Yes, that's correct. Don't block anyone's view.
Okay. And it also asks about the meaning of neatness in Blackboard work.
Right, so neatness means writing along horizontal lines, consistent spacing, avoiding overwriting, and erasing unnecessary content.
Just keeping things clean. And the final question asks us to name 3 key components of Blackboard skill.
If we were to highlight just 3, I'd say legible writing, neatness, and appropriateness. Of course, the other components are also important.
But those are the foundational 3.
I think so.
Okay, so to summarize, what are the big takeaways from all of this?
Well, the Blackboard is still a really valuable, cost-effective, versatile tool, but its effectiveness depends on the teacher using it thoughtfully and systematically. Mastering these seemingly basic techniques is essential for maximizing impact.
So even something that seems really basic is actually foundational for effective teaching.
Exactly. It's a cornerstone of clear visual communication.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the art of writing on a Blackboard. You know, it makes you appreciate the skill that goes into effective teaching, even with traditional tools.
And it reinforces that the principles of clear visual communication, legibility, organization, emphasis are timeless.
Exactly. As you think about how you communicate visually, whether it's on a Blackboard, a screen, even an email, think about those core principles: clarity, organization, visual emphasis. How might applying those, even to something like an email or a social media post, make your message clearer and more impactful? It's a reminder that even simple tools, when used with intention and skill, can be really powerful. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.